Welcome to the show. It is a football Friday, an actual football Friday, because we're sitting here on a football field right at the end zone of the Broncos practice facility at Broncos Park down at Dove Valley. My name is Sean Drotar. Thanks for joining us. As he has every day out at training camp, Cody Roark, our lead writer for the Denver Broncos, the host of the Locked On Broncos podcast, joins us. Cody, here we are at the tail end now of the second week of training camp. As we know, the quarterback situation, I will not call it a competition because it never was, is obviously down to two quarterbacks, which, by the way, that's the only two that were ever even in consideration. Jarrett Stidham and Bo Nix. Now that we've seen them now for the better part of 2 weeks, let's start with Jarrett Stidham. Now in his second year with Sean Payton in this system, what is he doing right that you can see what's a little bit better than last year, and what does he still need to work on?
Yeah, I'd say for Jarrett, his command of the offense, he's comfortable. He's very comfortable running what Payton wants him to do. And I think having a year inside the system, he understands, what his job is. And I would say he's also done a really good job of getting the ball out of his hands. He's not really a guy that's going to hold on to it too long, which is nice to see. He goes through his reads and progressions. Kind of like exactly what Bo Nix does. Both of these guys do that really well, which is why I think it's really just those two primarily in the competition that we're talking about here. I will say this, though. For Jarrett, he's got an advantage. I think Bo's getting this as well. The leadership aspect. These guys do things away from the team facility.
And he's been around that in a way that Bo Nix hasn't yet.
Yeah, and Jarrett Stidham last year was actually a big part of the team stuff that they would do. They'd do something on Thursdays together. It'd be offensive players, defensive players. They'd go out to dinner. They'd go out and do these different things. And they'd do activities outside of just having dinner. So they just do a lot of off-the-field bonding. So when you look at this locker room, they love Stiddy. But also, Bo Nix is getting part of that process as well. And look, I would say that Jarrett, even though that he knows he's got competition here, Jarrett's embraced Bo. Bo's embraced Jarrett. That quarterback room has been very supportive of one another. So I'd just say in terms of, Stidham's leadership is another thing he's doing really, really well right now. If I had to say maybe one area that maybe he could improve on, this is the one thing I've noticed a little bit. Jarrett is going to take, the short stuff, what's in front of him. But you want to see him take some more chances, more shots downfield, which I feel like he hasn't done that consistently so far in camp. Bo, on the other hand, has also taken some chances downfield, which has been nice to see. He's had some success. He's had some misses. I think for him, he's still getting used to the altitude because you play at sea level. You're slinging the football. The trajectory, is pretty straight line, but you play at altitude. Sometimes it'll sail a little bit on some plays. But that hasn't really been an issue for him consistently here in camp. So I'd say for Stidham, it's just, take more chances. Be aggressive. Take some shots downfield. I don't know if that's just part of Denver's install, that they've just been going the short to intermediate stuff. Denver needs to be good at that. They weren't good enough at that last year. So I'd say,
and that's the bread and butter of NFL offenses.
That's just me cherry picking what I think he could do better. He's done a good job. He's had a really good camp.
In Stidham's case, and it's funny because you think about it, we're talking about, at one point, two former Auburn quarterbacks. Stidham transferred to Auburn from Baylor and finished his last 2 years. Of course, Nix went from Auburn after 3 years and went to Oregon for 2 more years. But that's also, at least regarding Stidham, it is times in the pro, and granted, he hasn't had a lot of time in the pros either, but back in college too, not a high touchdown guy, 36 touchdowns in the 2 years at Auburn, so not throwing huge touchdown numbers. Of course, Bo Nix was 74 in his last 2 years at Oregon. Different offense, but they're not so far removed from one another that it's not really the idea that Stidham is going to be probably he is more of a conservative, don't screw up the game quarterback, because we know he's not a Patrick Mahomes, a John Elway that you're down in the fourth quarter, you're going to go, oh, it's all right, we got Jarrett Stidham, we're going to.
Did you watch the Hall of Fame game last night?
I watched the part of the Hall of Fame game until they stopped it, which shows you everything you need to know about the preseason when the centerpiece of the Hall of Fame, it rains, and they're like, and we're out.
I would say the field in Canton's always an issue. So and also Ohio weather is pretty bad.
Oh no, it's bad. And they did the right thing by calling it off. Let's face it. The only thing they were concerned about was interviewing the new inductees, which Randy Gradishar of the Broncos will be one, and trying to get a feel for the new kickoff.
Yeah, which a little underwhelming, the results, what we saw.
Average field position at the 26.
But it's early, and I think that's where it's like, okay, now all these teams that
there was
played,
still activity.
Yeah, so they're going to watch
interesting play.
They're going to watch and say, okay, hey, this is what this team didn't do well. Here's how maybe we can tweak our approach to it. That was good. But my main takeaway from the Hall of Fame game is backup quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have good backup quarterbacks in today's NFL. I think Brett Rippon, gosh, that's my guy. I love Brett
How
Rippon.
about that?
Brett is just a guy who works so hard. I was so happy to see him, capitalize on those opportunities in Chicago last night. There's Davis Mills, who was a former starter, but now is relegated to a backup role here. So for me, it's just you look at this and it's like, all right, Denver needs a good backup, regardless of the situation, right? So even if Jarrett Stidham is not the starter, he's going to be a really good backup.
And what you want from your backup, you talk about Rippon, you talk about Mills, you talk about Trevor Siemian, who's I remember
Super Bowl
when
champion,
he came, he started the Broncos in 2016. I remember telling people like Trevor Siemian is not an NFL starting caliber quarterback, but he's going to retire with a whole bunch of money in his pocket because he's prepared. He's coachable. He's willing to accept the role that he is the backup and understand, hey, you know what? There's only 32 QB2s in the world too. And you get paid pretty well for that as well.
And we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years,
you'll play.
So many backups have to play.
You'll play. We're getting to a time in the NFL where nobody, or at least very few, make it through all 17
now they
games
want to
with
make
their quarterback.
18 regular season games.
Right. Yeah. You will see fewer and fewer times when quarterbacks will start, all of them just nagging injuries will get here and there. So it is important. And Stidham's been a backup, not a problem. Nix was asked about it early in the week in a sort of a weird question. Would you accept being the backup? And Nix had the right answer. Well, I don't really have a choice.
Yeah,
that's the job. If I'm told I'm starting, I'm starting. If I'm told I'm backing up, then I'm backing up, and I'll do my best at it. But his intent is to start, and we believe. You and I went on record earlier this week saying Bo Nix will start week 1. We feel comfortable with that, and he'll start every game if healthy.
Yeah.
But when you look at Bo Nix's first couple weeks, what is he doing well, and what does he need to work on?
Yeah, I would say Bo. I mean, Bo is consistently day in and day out shown steady improvement. Now, I'd say early on, you saw a little bit of just taking what the defense is giving him, checking it down from time to time. But then again, it's like we got to stop living in a time where we criticize people for checking down, especially if their first, second read ain't there and you're going to the check down.
Checking down is what NFL coaches want you to do. Remember, the average air yards for NFL quarterbacks for the last 4 years has consistently gotten shorter. Patrick Mahomes did not even average 7.
Yeah, last year he checked down.
Didn't even average 7. I seem to remember him holding the Lombardi Trophy at the end of the season.
So, and it's just about being smart, and obviously those checkdowns can lead to plays staying alive. You have a bust down in coverage, things like that. But I'll say, like, in terms of that, Bo, the one thing that stands out to me consistently for him is by the time, like, pre-snap processing, like, he's very smart. You can tell, like, he's sitting there, he's reading the coverage pre-snap. He's changing the protection. Kill. We're switching this play. He's identifying who the blitzer is. He did that with P.J. Locke and Jaquan McMillan the other day. He called it, and then he adjusted and he threw hot. Like, he threw against the blitz, which is what your coach do. You're supposed to do that stuff. But I would also just say he knows where he's going with the football, and he gets it there. And he's very good at evading pressure. Look, he's athletic, and obviously he can make plays out of structure. But I saw it was yesterday on the touchdown throw he had to Devon Vele. He drops back. He's getting it. He's reading. He's standing back in the pocket. Pressure's coming from his right side. He shoulder dips, steps up, and then launches it to Vele. Like, he's maneuvering the pocket really well.
Right.
His decision-making is good. I don't know where the narrative came that he didn't have a good practice yesterday, because literally
I don't either.
7 or 8 of us watched it and charted every play that he had. I didn't see or hear any of the things that I've seen spread on social media. I don't understand that, but it is what it is. I thought Bo had a terrific day. He had 2 good days in a row. And then last Saturday, he had a good day. He had the early interception, but then he shook it off. He threw 3 touchdowns. And I think he's just gotten more confidence as the days keep going. And he's stacking days here. It's good to see. We don't know what the QB rotation is going to be like today. Sean Payton's been playing some tricks with us. We'll see if it's Bo. But I imagine right now it's probably going to go primarily to Bo and then Jarrett. And then you are going to see times where you're going to see Zach Wilson rotate with the second team. I think that's just due diligence. But I think it's really between these 2 guys now. I've been impressed with Denver's quarterback room with Bo, with Jarrett. I think they've both done a really tremendous job so far to start training camp. So, some people are going to say, well, they don't have a great quarterback room, just if they just look at the name. I think Bo's going to be a terrific young player. I think there's a lot of things he can do that will help the Broncos succeed and win games.
I feel confident that out of all the first-round quarterbacks, when this is all said and done at the end of the year, you're not going to say Bo Nix statistically was the order in which he was picked.
There's even some rookie quarterbacks right now that were drafted in the first round that may not even start.
Drake May. first and foremost, obviously.
Yeah, he's struggling a little bit in camp, according to reports. J.J. McCarthy's kind of up and down a little bit.
Which warned about a guy that really was not counted on to do that much. It was a running offense. You brought up the part about the managing the pocket, which is very valuable in the NFL. In fact, one of the most valuable quarterback skills, and it doesn't get talked about probably as much as it should.
That's what Sean wants, because Sean has said, too,
he wants to extend to that pocket.
He said, the pocket's not always going to be clean, but you need to win from the pocket
right
at times.
Now, that said,
they couldn't do that with Russ.
Mobility does matter, and Bo Nix is much more mobile, much more mobile than Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah,
and especially when plays break down.
I will say this: Jarrett Stidham has like this underrated.
He's got a good instinct as when to tuck it,
and
yes,
mobility to him.
So I think some of that mobility matters as well. Not that, quite frankly, not that Sean Payton really wants to win that way, as you pointed out. It's a game where he wants to win from the pocket.
Here's my belief. It's not going to be primary passing. It's going to be they want to run the football.
Right.
Like Sean wants to run the football.
And play action.
And what I think about, too, is like, okay, they go out and they draft Estimate, but it's like they reportedly had strong interest in Josh Jacobs during free agency.
Why wouldn't you?
So it's like you don't go and have interest in a running back like that if you don't plan to make your identity offensively to run the football. Javonte drops 10 pounds. Javonte looks great out here. Like, don't know where that rumor even came up either, that he was going to be on the cutting block for the roster. Like his roster spot has never been in jeopardy. So that to me was a little weird.
Purely just health, right?
And it's just outside speculation. But man, he's dropped to 10 pounds, 11 pounds. He looks great. Denver's got a lot of good competition. That's why I think Denver's going to be so much better than people think this year. They're young, and if they stay healthy, they have players who can make plays. I think they're going to be a team that a lot of people sleep on. That hey, right now the Lions and the odds have them at 5.5. But the reality is, I think they're going to easily hit the over. And I think so much of it, if they could stay healthy and run the football well, I think that they're going to be in a pretty good spot. They're going to surprise some people.
Yeah, with the idea with Sean Payton, you think about, the great Drew Brees offenses and the numbers Drew Brees put up. But in the end, you're right. This Broncos team, apparently based by, and again, I always say pay attention to what people do, not what they say, especially when they're in the business of selling something. And the Broncos are in the business of selling their football team to fans. So this looks to me very much, I see it the way you do. This is a team that's going to be based on the power run, the gap run, play action here and there, and a lot of the passes I expect to be short and dump offs, which is something you saw on Sean Payton teams when Drew Brees was there, because he had a stable of runners and did it by committee, including receiving backs. So I look at an Estimate as a power guy. I look at Javonte Williams. I look at Samaje Perine, who Payton has consistently called out about his ability for blitz pickup, for running through the tackles, for running outside.
Tyler Beatty's had a really good camp as well, under the radar.
Yeah, there's a lot there. And, of course, Jaleel McLaughlin is there as a change of pace.
He and
back.
Javonte are locks.
Yeah, and I quite frankly feel Perine is too. So I think it will be interesting to see how this all shakes out. But I agree with you. This is going to be
4 backs.
It's not a high-flying – this is not going to be a high-flying offense, because Sean Payton knows what he's working with one way or the other. Jarrett Stidham's never done it. Bo Nix is a rookie. So this isn't going to be the team where you're dropping back and throwing 35 times a game. You don't want that. And the Broncos want to control the pace, keep it close, and control it on the ground. So we'll keep that in mind as we continue here at training camp. The first preseason game just barely over a week away. It comes quick. Cody Roark is the man at Mile High Sports with all things Broncos. And, of course, check him out at the Locked On Broncos. It's like 100 degrees out here every day, and we're a little bit loopy by Friday.
I'm sore. It's like day 9 or day 900. I'm sore. I haven't had my coffee
and
yet.
All we do
coffee
is
spelled backwards
stand around.
And until I get my coffee, I'll be fuck about anything.
The situation here is obviously a little bit ready for a break here. The Broncos are not going full pads today as well. They'll be taking one as well. Follow Cody for all the latest, and we will be back for more live from Broncos training camp at Broncos Park out at Dove Valley next.